Morning, guys. That was Revival by Third Day. Welcome to Sunday. It is awesome that I get a chance to spend some time with you. So thank you for having me in whatever realm of your life things are happening at the moment, whether that happens to be in the car, at home, maybe you're actually at work. Who knows where you are? But whatever is happening for you at the moment, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a little part of your day. And I do hope you're having a great start to Sunday. It is Sunday again, and I cannot believe it, but it is. Rolls in, rolls out, and then we're into the next week. It's kind of crazy how it happens, but it's always a nice chance for us to kind of call time out and just enjoy the chance just to sort of sit back and just take life in, I think. Well, that's if you're not working or doing things that are, still demanding, but hopefully for you guys, today is looking like a day where you can sort of call time out and just enjoy what's in your life, the good stuff, the stuff that brings hope and joy and all things good. And I do hope that you are well and truly blessed in abundance with that. So again, happy Sunday and welcome to another great week. I'm hoping for your sake. Now, this week has been a good week for us. I joked on Facebook this week. I did mention that I have managed to get my eyebrows waxed this week, which is a big achievement. So yes, that was a pretty momentous occasion. It's been way too long, so I'm enjoying that I can actually see quite well again. I'm joking, but that's okay. No, but in all seriousness, my daughter actually did graduate from her law degree, which is absolutely fantastic. Well, she's what do they call it? Where they're sworn in. So whatever that actually is, I don't know the legal terms, but yeah, huge achievement, and I'm incredibly proud of her. And yeah, just proves that when God creates us in a particular way, He knows exactly what He has designed for us and the purpose behind us. And it's just so reassuring that even when we think that things are coming along that will stop or just kind of hinder the progress or the plans that God has for us, we've got a God who sees through that when we leave our plans up to Him and just allow Him to transform and change and move us into the settings or the situations that we need to be placed to be able to do the things that bring Him honour and glory. And guys, today we're talking about, well, it's actually kind of like that. We are talking, it's a follow-on from last week actually. So we were talking about the 7 deadly sins last week. We were actually talking about pride. So yeah, just that need to be aware of our own sense of self. And I guess that kind of flows on from where I was going, just talking about my daughter, just that sense of, we can have these accomplishments in life, but I think we just need to be very careful in how we navigate that and how we maybe affirm ourselves. And it's great to give ourselves a pat on the back when we're trying things and we succeed. But just that sense of, awareness that we have a duty of care to ourselves and to other people to make sure, if we're living a Christian life, that we make sure we don't take that on board as look at me. And instead, that we just had this complete awe and this sense of thanks in that God places us where He needs us where He needs us to be, and He trusts us with the challenges that we are given and the responsibilities in life that we are given. And it's pretty cool to think that He actually thinks that we're capable. I know that for my third daughter, the one that just had the accident a few months, it's actually just over 2 months ago now. But for her in that situation, one thing that has echoed through that is this sense of, I know I'm supposed to be here because, everything was against me, and I know that I'm supposed to be here. I don't have one question. There is purpose and there was an opportunity for me to not be here, but, there is purpose in that. So guys, I want you to look at your life. I just want to encourage you this week, spend some time and really validate the fact that you are worth so much and that God has placed you in this time, in this season, in this day and age. You're here and you're functioning and you're thriving, and maybe even if you're not thriving, maybe if things are really, really awkward and uncomfortable and, you're doing that squirmy thing, or it's you just want freedom, you just want to be able to breathe again, there's still purpose in that. And I think it's just so important for us to be aware of that and to really be able to throw it back at God and go, I want to give all of this to you. So that was last week. We're talking about pride anyway. And this week we're moving on to envy. Now, envy is one of those things that it can start so small and so almost, I don't even know. it can start with just such a minute thing, and it can just, in our heart, can fester and develop and start to thrive. It's almost like a bacteria that takes control of the whole body. And it can start with something that's just in us that, we see something in somebody else that we think, I really appreciate that. I wish I could be like that. They're really good at doing this. They can do this, and look at what they own. And it starts with those little thoughts, and it can start with that, and it can grow to a point where we have to be really, really careful, because we can start to lose sight of what we have in our life and the fact that we are living our own path and our own calling, if you like. It's one of those things, because I think we all battle with it from time to time. But I think, starting from a biblical perspective, I'm going to throw some Bible verses at you now, just to kind of get things stirred up and started for this morning. So Proverbs 14:30, a tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. Exodus 34:14, for you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. And I think there's something in that. So we need to think about why we're dealing with a God who's jealous. And maybe there's a valid sense of jealousy in that, but we just need to question what makes jealousy or envy right, and what makes it controlling, almost... It's almost consuming, like I was saying. It can be like that bacteria that can take over. So where is it? What's the line? Where are we, what are we talking when we're talking about a jealous God? But let's go back to some other verses. 1 Corinthians 13:4, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant. Proverbs 23:17, let not your heart envy sinners. Sorry about that. But continue in the fear of the Lord all the day. James 3:16, for where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. So I can kind of see a flow on from where we were going from last week, in that there is this sense of, we had to kind of question why we experience the feeling of jealousy or envy. And we have to make sure that we're very aware of what our selfish ambitions are and why we are driven that way, because maybe that's actually fueling a lot of other sin. And what we're going to get into this morning is actually kind of along those lines. It's looking at how we can flow on from one sin to another without even realizing. I think that's a theme throughout the next few weeks, really. If you look at one thing and how it evolves to become another, it gets a little bit messy, doesn't it? It gets to a point almost like you kind of can't see right from wrong. And that's a scary place to be, I think, because if we can't see God face to face, then where are our decisions being made? How are our decisions being made? How are we perceiving the world? How are we perceiving the things that we're doing? It's a big one. And I don't know, my little brain's, it's enjoying kind of processing this stuff. I don't know if my heart will, because honestly, I think every one of us can easily be confronted by this stuff, and there's some stuff that we need to look at in ourselves that can be uncomfortable and a little bit confronting, but my goodness, it's rewarding when God challenges us on these things. So my prayer this morning, guys, is that as we go through this together, we'll all experience that sense of, where do I sit on this? What am I driven by? Is envy a part of that? Anyway, for now, I will take a little break, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. So I'll see you soon. This is Reminds Me by Ginny Owens. See you soon, guys. Good morning, guys. It's Lindy Jones here, your Rhema CC Sunday morning host. Welcome to Sunday if you happen to be rolling out of bed or climbing into the car, or maybe climbing out of the car. Maybe who knows what you're doing. Whatever it is, I hope you're having a good time doing it, that you've got a smile on your face, that you're feeling that beautiful Sunday morning freshness, I guess. And I just hope that you have a fantastic morning. We were just listening to Walking Free by Micah Tyler, and I think that's actually a really cool way to kick things off from here. Now, we are talking 7 deadly sins here on a Sunday morning over the next few weeks, really. Well, it'll be another 6 weeks, inclusive of today. So we spoke last week about pride and how it can impact our relationship with God and with others, and just how it can actually change our own hearts. And today we're talking about envy. So this is another one of the 7 deadly sins that sort of gives us, I guess, a label to the different sort of sin that we might be consumed by or pulled into. Now, envy, if we look at the definition, We have a few different things here in front of me. I'm going to read through them. So we have a feeling of discontented or resentful longing aroused by someone else's possessions, qualities, or luck. An example here is she felt a twinge of envy for the people on board. Now I'm literally just looking this as it's a Bing search, so I just put it into my search engine. This is what popped up. We also have another description here as a verb: desire to have a quality, possession, or other desirable thing belonging to, which happens to be from someone else. And an example here is he envied people who did not have to work all the weekends. Or I envy Jane her happiness. The things that you want in other people. And I think if we are very, very honest with ourselves, there are times when every one of us experience this from time to time. I think we can look at things on the outside and we can think, I really would like that. And underneath, we really have no idea what we're dealing with because we don't actually know what is going on in that person's life. And that's a really good way to combat this sense of if only I could be like them, or if only I could have what they have, or things always work out well for them. Why doesn't it work out for me? Now, I said last week, I looked at the list of the 7 deadly sins, and I am no better than anyone else. There is not one there that I can honestly say that I haven't fallen into the trap of at some point, whether it's, now or at a previous time. And I would say envy is one of those things that is a little bit circular. Now, this is a really personal observation. And so I do it with sensitivity. I'm bringing it to the table with sensitivity and respect for the situation. But I know for myself, one of the situations that I've struggled with, because I know people can be very envious of the fact that, we have 7 kids. And thankfully, thank God God has had his hand on every one of those. He has protected them. He's nurtured them. And I'm so, so thankful for that. I really genuinely, I'm in awe of how much God has protected them. And I hope and pray that he doesn't take his hand off each of them. But these are my kids, and they have happened with very little help at all. I've mentioned here previously, number 5 was the most planned, and she was a case of 2 months after we kind of went, if it happens, it happens. She was happening. So falling pregnant for me, it's one of those things that to everyone else who struggles with fertility or who struggles with wanting the family, it can look like, oh my goodness, she's got it all together. It just happens for her. And I've struggled with that from the flip side, because for me, there have been times where I have been so overwhelmed with the responsibility of being a parent, and a parent to lots of kids. The financial burden is just a tiny, tiny portion of that. The responsibility to raise them to know God in a world that tells them that they don't need God, that's huge. And the moments where I've needed a break and a chance just to breathe, and there's been no one to kind of go, I'll take them. It from the outside, it looks like there is just so much blessing, and there is. But from the inside, there are times where I'm going, I am sinking here. This is too much. I don't think I can keep going with this. Now, from the other side, I can look at other people and think, I want to give you what I have. I know that, if I could be, and I have actually, I won't go into it, but I have wanted to help people so badly in this situation in terms of fertility, to provide this for them, that it actually hurts, because I want to be able to give back. So I guess what I'm saying here is, we can see things from the outside and think, I really want that. And it can fuel envy. It can fuel that need to be bitter or twisted in their thinking. It can be, it can destroy our thinking and our relationships with others, because we don't actually get to the heart of what is going on. And if we see someone who has something that we think we want, and we don't grab hold of that, we don't recognize it as envy, it has the ability to destroy so much. Now, this is where the sin comes in. The sense of, I want it so badly that I can't even have a relationship with that person anymore. I can't look at them the same way. I can't get along with them because I don't understand their world. This is what I'm talking about. And I think it's one of those things that it is really hard to confront the things that you want or that you desire and that you're longing for, especially if it's been a prayerful prayerful consideration for year upon year upon year. One of the best ways to combat that is empathy. And empathy comes from understanding the perspective of the other person. So in my case, if you're looking at fertility as an example, people had no idea that I was just so overwhelmed and overburdened to a point where my husband and I were talking about this just like throughout the week, and when my mental health just declined dramatically, it came down to the fact that I was both overwhelmed with the responsibilities placed on me, and I was also bored by the fact that I had to do the mundane day in, day out. And this is amongst COVID, so there was no other escape. It was, I'm at home, I've got to try and make this work. But my point is that understanding for the situation, it looked like everything was happy and filled, and, life was just a big bubble of happiness. But underneath that, I was struggling. And this is not to say that I don't mean to sound like I've got my life together, or that, I want compassion. I don't want that. I'm not compassion. Compassion's always a good thing. But I don't want sympathy. I'm not asking for that. And I know others who are on the flip side of any situation where there's envy involved. When there's a heart there that's just going, if you could just understand where I'm at. There's something that I don't know, it's just that ability to have a relationship and do things from a godly perspective, and to understand that it doesn't always look like it is in the pictures. We've got Instagram, we've got Facebook, we've got all sorts of social media where people pop up on there with what these supposedly the picture perfect life. And we have others on the other end who are just curling up in a ball because that's not what they have. And so we have this world that's driven by envy based on a falseness, a fakeness of what they see. This is my challenge, I think. Get to know the people in your world. The people that you're uncomfortable with, the people that make things like, the things that they have. If they've got supposedly more than what you could dream of, talk to them about it. Because I'll guarantee that the picture perfect, presence that you're seeing is not actually real. I'll guarantee that there's struggles in there that you have no idea about. And that understanding is what drives and pierces envy. You want to get rid of envy as a sin? Look at the heart of the people that you're envious of. Look at their world. What's in it, and what do you need to understand? Because I'll guarantee there's stuff that you just don't get. I can look at people. I look at the house that we lived in Nora Head, an absolutely stunning house. And I'm so thankful for the time that we had there, because it was perfect for, all of our family. It was huge. It was great. But we were flooded 3 times. We had all sorts of things happen in that house. So from the outside, it looked like this gorgeous place to live. But, there was constantly something happening that would be like, okay, here we go again. So that's what I'm saying is look at the things that you can see that your heart says, I want that, I need that, I wish I could be like that, and dig a bit deeper. I know this is a bit confronting, and I know that it probably may have kind of, it's one of those things I think is so important to talk about, because if we don't, we just continue doing what we're doing, and it's that circle thing. So that's why I'm bringing it out today. I'm like, no, this has to be discussed in a real way. And so I think it's really important. As I said, I know that there's some stuff there that may have triggered some issues of sensitivity and, some hurts. And I don't mean to do that. All I'm saying is that there is stuff there that when we're looking at the heart of the person or ourselves, it changes everything. And if there's stuff in us that we think, all right, we got to work on this, God, I recognize that envy is controlling me in some way because you haven't followed through, or you haven't answered the prayer that I've got just yet. Because let's just stick with that, because it still could be coming. It's that sense of trust in that God does know what he's doing, and his ways are so far beyond ours. And that's such an awesome promise to have. So I want to leave you for the moment, guys. I'll give you some time to sort of process this, because it's some heavy stuff in that it does pierce the heart. It's kind of like, ooh, that one, yeah, that hurts. But the promises God gives us, that he works together, he works all things together for the good of us, because we love him, and when we choose to serve him, we're his. And I think that that's just such a beautiful thing that we can hold on to. I'm going to take a break anyway, guys, and I will see you very soon. Take it easy. See you soon. Good morning and welcome to Rhema CC. I'm Lindy Jones, your Sunday morning host. Welcome to Sunday, guys. We were just listening to Rejoice by Andrew Ripp. And at 8:30, I just want to remind you guys, we do have a new beginning with Greg Laurie. I absolutely love listening to him, and I do happen to get challenged every single week that I listen to, or every single time, opportunity I get to speak to him. I don't actually speak to him. I listen to him. Anyway, it's been one of those mornings. It's not quite there yet, but one thing at a time, I guess. Guys, we are talking, we're actually talking 7 deadly sins over the next few weeks. So we are today talking about something that's a little bit confronting. We're talking envy. So this is a bit of a tricky one because it can get quite personal, because there's some stuff there that can be hurtful when we are confronted with truth. And truth sometimes means looking at our own heart and working on what it is in us that needs to be changed or confronted or addressed or softened, I guess. Softened is a really good word for that, because envy can be like this. It can be this controlling force that we don't even realize has taken over us. But the truth is that we have a God who can soften us, and he loves a soft, pure heart. He loves a heart that he can work with, and he loves a heart that's willing to say, you know what, I've got some stuff here, God, I need to work on, and because I realise that I'm being driven by this. I realise that envy has it's been and it is a part of my life, and the results of envy, I think, can be quite debilitating. I mean, it scripturally, one of the first verses I think I read this morning was from Proverbs 14:30. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. So it's talking like it's going to the core of who we are. If we allow envy to control us, it's going to every fibre of our being, and it's destructive. It takes away our joy and our hope. It takes away our willingness or ability to have a relationship with God in the most pure and wholesome way. I want to throw some more verses at you. Galatians 5:19-21. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, that those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of God. Galatians 5:26, let us not become conceited, provoking one another, envying one another. 1 Peter 2:1, so put away all malice and all deceit and hypocrisy and envy and all slander. Proverbs 24:1, be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them. There's a few challenges in just those verses there. Some of the things that I've just taken away myself by reading through those, it is so important to challenge our relationships with other people and how they are impacting our own heart. I think that we need to question so much about where we are and, how we are functioning with our everyday. How are we allowing the envious stuff, the stuff that we want to drive us to people who may make things harder for us or away from the things that are good? Envy is just one of those controlling things. It can just sneak in. It can sort of fly under the radar. And we don't even realise what we're actually battling with until we're confronted with it. Have you ever seen people who get angry? I know we're doing wrath in a few weeks, but they get angry about a lot of things and you don't quite understand why. But then when you get to the bottom of it, there's definitely something fueling it. And envy is, I think, one of those things. It can fuel stuff that we don't even realise is actually taking hold. So how do we do it? How do we take note of what is going on for us? I know we are being confronted in, this is my thoughts this week. I feel like, and maybe this is just me, I feel like there's this Christian movement at the moment, or a movement amongst Christians, to grow up, to stop. Again, we're talking from a scriptural perspective. We're taught that we can't stay on the milk of of our mother's breast. We've got to go to the big, the more meatier or the more fulfilling stuff. And I feel like there's this movement at the moment that we're kind of growing up. We're not as caught up in just the silly things. They are. They're silly things that we used to get caught up in church services, and what they're wearing to church, and is that appropriate on a Sunday, and all these things that are just so trivial. I feel like there's actually a beautiful movement. It feels like we're just starting to grow up. That maturity is starting to kick in. But with maturity, that means we have to face the stuff that's real. We've got to face the things that are actually confronting. No, not necessarily. Well, they can be confronting to us, but the things that are stopping us from living that fulfilled life that God is calling us to do. Guys, if we want to be a church of movement and power in this Central Coast community, even just us, but broaden that. If we want to go, statewide, if we want to go across the nation, we've got to grow up and work out why we stand on the things that we do. We've got to work out what's truth, what's real, what is God calling us to believe and to understand about our own heart. Growing up means looking at the things that we've been doing and why we've been doing them. It means asking ourselves to address the stuff that we're driven by. It means looking at the things that leave us envious of others. And a question, are they healthy things, or are they things that are going to pull us further away from His call on us as individuals, but also as the church? We've got a huge responsibility here. And facing the truth can be really, really challenging. I think we have to go back to the truth that, if we look at what we're called to do, we're called to love. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant. 1 Corinthians 13:4. Now, I read that early this morning, but going back to the simplicity of that. If we're going to grow up, what are we here for? Are we here to just, be a presence in the community? Or are we here to be a presence in the community? Are we here, just to be seen to be doing the right thing? Or are we here to love the way that God loves? When we can confront that, we can confront the stuff that's pulling us away. And one of those things is envy. I want to encourage you today and in the week to come. Look at the things that get you fired up. Why? Why do they get you fired up? Is there an element of jealousy in that? Now, I said this morning, Exodus 34:14, for you shall worship no other God, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Now, this is a bit of a flip on the whole envy and jealousy thing, but we're actually dealing with a God who, He wants your heart. And in this case, He's saying, I'm a jealous God because I want your soul. I want all of you. I want who you are. And that's beautiful. So there is a difference. There's a difference between envy that's going to be destructive, and there's a jealousy that we can talk about is in our God and the way that He loves us so wholly, so perfectly. And it's kind of encouraging to know that He chases us to a point where He says, I really want this relationship with you. Sometimes when we're in the yucky stuff in life, I think that's what it's about. I think the backing into a corner, the stuff that's like, I can't do anything else, is actually, I think those moments where we can see that element of jealousy in this situation where we're talking about a jealous God is actually so that we can be softened, we can be nurtured and loved to the point where we have no reason but to just want to love back. I know it's a bit of a tricky one to get your head around, but we'll dig deeper. We'll actually go into it further as the morning goes on. So, yeah, I think I need a bit of time to get my own head around it a bit too. So, let's do it. Let's just do that together in the next little stage or little section. So, I'll see you guys back here shortly anyway. But, yeah, in the meantime, enjoy this and I'll be back soon. Welcome back. That was Relate for King and Country, guys. You're joining us here at Rhema CC. Welcome to Sunday morning. I am Lindy and I am your Sunday morning host. How's it going? How's the day working out for you? Hopefully not too bad. Hopefully you're having a pretty easy one. So I'm crossing my fingers, toes and everything in between that you are having a super duper morning. And that more than anything, you know that you are incredibly loved, that you are incredibly valued, and that you are incredibly special. So, yeah, stick to that truth because indeed it is a big truth. Now, guys, we've been talking some big stuff this morning. We've been following through from something we initially covered last week. So we're actually going to be covering it over the next few weeks. And we're looking at the 7 deadly sins. Now, these are the 7 deadly sins, if I'm kind of going to pull it together so you sort of understand what they are. It's sort of defined, there's 7 specific things that kind of fuel the way that we can become involved in or entrapped by certain sins, I guess you could say. So they're kind of an overall observation of the different things that can sort of pull us away from God. And I think it's really important to acknowledge what they are so that we can be aware of how we're being driven in life. It certainly takes some time to acknowledge that and to sort of think about things for ourselves and sort of examine whether or not they are elements to who we are at this particular time. And if they have been, if there's some stuff that we need to uncover from, previous times in our lives that we haven't yet really dealt with. And I know last week I mentioned that I quite, honestly looked at the list of all seven deadly sins, and I can honestly say that for myself, it's been a battle. I've dealt with every one of them at different times, and I'm sure until the time I leave this planet, I'm going to struggle too. Humanity is just one of those things that we can have all the ambition to sort of serve God in the best way that we possibly can with our whole heart, and we can still fail. But I think it's the awareness that we do struggle and the awareness that God is going to love us regardless that, is so, it's such a positive truth that we can hold on to because, I think just the awareness that we are going to mess up from time to time is understandable, and it's reasonable to accept that we are going to find things hard from time to time. And the best part of all of it is that God knows we're going to before we do. And He's just looking for our heart to be open to receiving direction and discipline and restructure, I guess, at different times when we do find ourselves caught up in those things that we're not overly proud of. So last week we talked about pride, and that was a big one. This week we're talking about envy. And envy is one of those things that we don't really notice have sort of snuck into our lives until often, sadly, sometimes it can just be a case of we've kind of gone too far and we've found ourselves crossing other lines. There might be different sins that we are actually finding ourselves evolving into or being a part of because of an envious soul, a soul that's looking for a satisfaction or I guess that it's that yearning to have what somebody else has, whether that's their gifts, their talents, their possessions, their time, whatever it is. It's that looking outside of oneself and going, I want that, and I'll do what I can to get that. Now, I find it interesting when we look back in Scripture with Genesis 4. Now, this is where we see envy this early on in the Bible. Again, for those who happen to be new to Christianity, Genesis it's the first book of the Bible. So it's giving us that very first insight into, creation and what God values. And in the 4th chapter, so Genesis 4, we actually see Cain and Abel. I'm going to read you guys a little bit before we just talk about it as quickly as I possibly can, because I have been going a little bit over time today. I'm trying to pull back, but once I get started on something I'm passionate about, it's a little bit hard to sort of rein it in. So I'll do my best. But Genesis 4, Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, "With the help of the Lord, I've brought forth a man." Later, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering that happened to be fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favour on Abel and his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favour. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. I'm having a shocker today, guys. Sorry about that. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, you will not be accepted. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. Am I my brother's keeper?" The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crop for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said to him, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Now I want to skip a little bit because it goes into kind of how things evolved in terms of just the generations that followed from that. But it ends in Genesis 4 by saying, we'll just skip to 25. Adam made love to his wife again, and she gave birth to a son and named him Seth, saying, God has granted me another child in place of Abel, since Cain killed him. Seth also had a son, and he named him Enosh. At that time, people began to call on the name of the Lord. So what we see here in this particular chapter, and I do apologise for my reading, my eyes are terrible today. Anyway, what we see here is this sense of envy to the point that it actually cast out the value of human life. Envy drove in this particular setting, it drove the actions of life to come to an end. I don't really know where to go with this one because there's stuff that's going on in my thoughts right now that I think they're a little bit telling for the state of the world at the moment. We look at that and we think, how could you do that? Like, how could you take your brother out to the field just because you're experiencing the sense of shame, or like you're not enough, or there's those questions that we have. But then if we look at the state of today's world, what are we seeing? We're seeing people who are driven to the point of, trying to undermine others constantly to get themselves up. It's that in Australia we call it the tall poppy syndrome in a lot of ways. We can bring each other down by the things that we say, that we do, because really we don't want to see other people thrive. And that's not necessarily the right heart to have when you're someone who is of Christian faith. We also see human life not valued. We see things, we see women who are told that, human life doesn't begin until birth or until a certain amount of gestational weeks. And, there's that message of, if it's going to get in the way of your career or your drive or your ability to do this or that or whatever else, then, it's not really it's not human life. Now, I know I'm touching on some heavy stuff today, and I had not planned to go here. So it's a bit of kind of, as I'm talking, I'm like, oh, I didn't expect to be touching on these subjects myself. But I think if we're looking at the heart, which is what I'm talking about for most this morning, is the human heart and what's driving us. If I'm looking at that and I'm kind of observing things for what they are, we've got to acknowledge that that's, we're really no different to this time that we're seeing back in Genesis. We're dealing with human hearts who are driven by, I want something more, and this thing is in my way. That's a little bit confronting, and it's quite a hurtful truth. What does God value? What does he value? And I think that's the core of what we need to be looking at. If we're looking at envy, we need to question ourselves and why we're driven by the way that we are. We need to question the messages that we're given. We need to be questioning the lies that are told to us. We need to be thinking about the realities of what is playing out before us. And we need to understand that despite it all, God is a God who blesses and loves, perseveres and chases us. Even when we don't know why we're envious or we're out of control and why we're doing the things that we're doing, he knows us so intimately and so perfectly that he gets to the heart of who we are and he says, I love that person. I know they've messed up. I know they've made some stupid choices. I know they haven't loved the things that I love. I know that they've disregarded what I value. But I love them. And I hope they come home to me. I hope they come home to get to know me more, and I will protect them. If there's that understanding that, they've done things, wrong, that they've made things difficult for themselves, I will protect them. Go back to it today, guys. Look at Genesis 4 if you can. It started in the beginning. In the very beginning of the Bible, we see this character of God who challenges and confronts, who shows us what he values, but blesses anyway. Hold on to that this morning. I am so encouraged by the fact that we have a God who chooses to love us and perseveres when we really don't deserve it, when we've messed up time and time again. But isn't it awesome that we have that truth? Anyway, for now, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer. I will be back soon to kind of close things up this morning, but there is some stuff there that I just hope and pray you can kind of really process today. For now, enjoy this. This is Angels by Ellie Limebear. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you guys soon. Welcome back. That was Hillsong Worship with Never Walk Alone. And guys, you are not ever walking alone. How tremendous that is. That's an awesome truth that we can hold on to here, in our everyday. You have joined us here at Rhema CC. Thank you for being a part of our community and our Sunday and our Monday and our Tuesday and every other day in between Sunday and Sunday. And thank you for getting behind what happens here at Rhema CC. Guys, I speak on behalf of the whole team here. We really do value your support. So thank you for getting behind what we do. Thank you for prayerfully considering, the needs that we have here. And we want to just honour that and just say thank you for being a part of this community. And every one of you are. So thank you for just playing your role in that. There are so many people we can thank. And yeah. But let me just start with you guys who are listening in this morning. Thank you just for listening and just being a part of what's happening here. Thank you for being a part of the movement of God and just being prepared to just serve him and get behind what he is doing in this community. Guys, we live in a pretty special place. Central Coast is a gorgeous spot and we get to call it home. So that's pretty awesome. For those of you who aren't from the Central Coast, come and visit. We'd love to have you. It's an awesome space, an awesome place, and my goodness, it oozes God's blessing, and it's just, in his handiwork, there's so much in terms of creation that we can just see him and just stand in awe. So we'd love to have you at some point if you're from elsewhere along, whether that's in the country or even abroad. So we'd love to have you either way. But back to what we are talking about today, guys. I'm just tying things off in this little section here. We have been talking about envy. We've been talking about the heart. We've been talking about a God who loves us regardless of how we can get things skewed and be driven by the wrong stuff. And I just want to say thank you, God, that you are a God who understands us before we can even understand ourselves. How awesome is it? Really, how awesome is it to know that not to just disregard the things that we do that aren't pleasing to him. I don't mean that. There is certainly a seriousness to it. We can't just disregard and go, it doesn't matter. God loves me anyway. Obviously, there is that need to have this relationship that is real with God. And I think that's what he's encouraging us to do. Be real with him and acknowledge when things have been not handled correctly. And we spoke about Cain and Abel in the last little section. And that was just a fine example. And that's from the very beginning of the Bible. That's back in Genesis, where we're looking at, humanity. I'm really not doing so well today. But anyway, humanity and how we can be driven by things like envy if we're not careful. It's something we certainly need to knock on the head as it comes. We don't need to have more trouble come because we haven't dealt with an envious spirit or an envious heart. And it certainly takes a deep prayer, a real raw prayer. It takes an awareness and a willingness to surrender who we are to God and to just offer it up to him and to say, you know what, I don't know what to do with this at times. I'm controlled by the things that I want that I don't have yet. And I think one of the best ways around that is just to keep throwing that at him, guys. Do it. Just give him the things that you are envious of and allow him to soften you. Because from softening, empathy is developed, understanding, an ability to talk to those people who you feel threatened by. That just softens, and there's just something that's just so real and raw and connective, and it's just a powerful move. So my prayer for you this morning is that you can actually do that this week, that you can offer God that heart that is burdened by envy. Some of you may not be struggling with that at the moment. That's great. But if you are, that is my prayer. I do hope you guys have a fantastic week. I'm going to skedaddle out of here. Remember that God does love you. He genuinely does. And he knows what he's doing, and he touches your heart because he knows what's in store, and he knows who he wants you to be. And that's just fantastic. Anyway, I'm going to skedaddle out of here. So I will see you guys next week. Take it easy and bless someone. All right. Have a good one, guys. See you soon.